think it's.
Let's call it the articles.
Form.
I'll look it up. Let's see if I
All
can
right,
find it.
missing is Mr. Camerano, Mrs. Cthulhu, Mr. Fidel, and we have David. First item on the agenda is public hearing. Need a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second from Donna. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's 5-0.
You want to close it now?
Any members of the public wish to address the committee?
Where's the committee?
Hearing
Well,
none.
beg your pardon.
Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Your turn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion seconded by Mr. McDonald.
No, I didn't second it. It was,
It was
Sam.
me.
It was Sam.
Mr. Gray, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Gray.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
We don't look that much alike.
Next item on the agenda is article explanations and recommendations update. We're done. Everything went to the printer. I think we had explanations, everything, everything, except for one article, which was Article 51. And we had our vote, we had our recommendations on all financial articles. I think we did a couple of non-financial. All right, and we had both, I think we had about 5 minority opinions. All right, we should have some copies back from the printer by Friday.
Cool.
All right, so they'll be available to you then. There's also an electronic copy that should have gone out to you already.
Yeah, already got that.
All right,
I did get that.
you did
I
get
have it
that?
here yet.
Not knowing how many people are gonna be here tonight, we didn't print them out ahead of time. Just,
Okay.
we've killed about 16 trees so far. On the warrant articles, a question came up on the spinning. Mrs. Bronk, you wanted to?
Well, I wanted to make a motion to bring it up for reconsideration.
You were in the majority last time?
Yes, I
You
was.
can't bring it from reconsideration, we have to rescind it.
Oh, rescind.
Our previous recommendation to bring it up.
Well,
Make a motion to rescind.
I do make a motion to rescind.
Do you have a second?
I can't second it because I was on the other side of that, can I?
Sure you can.
Sure you can.
I second it.
Different motion.
What article is it?
Spinning.
The spinning article.
Which is the spinning.
Discussion?
Why are you changing the view?
Well, so many people have, I still believe financially we can't withstand the additional $20,000 to $30,000 a year right now. But so many people have worked so hard and really put their heart and soul into this. So many people have
What is it?
spoken to me about it, and I just had a change of heart. And it's truly just a change of heart. It's not a change of my head. It's a change of my heart that I was willing to support it.
Comments? Mr. McDonald?
Well, obviously I was on the support side and I realize that we're in some pretty tough economic times. I guess with me, it was the fact that they're going to cover 2 years worth of expenses. And I realize that,
That's not what we're discussing. We're discussing rescinding the article.
oh, well, I think it's a good thing.
Sam?
I'd like to hear a discussion, so in that, I would agree, but I'd like to hear a discussion as to why fully.
All right, the
I was-
discussion right now is whether or not to rescind.
Right.
Sam is asking for discussion as to why we should or shouldn't do it.
My only point in bringing it up was, I personally felt guilty. Mr. Sam, I really did, that so many people had worked so hard, and that was the reasoning behind me bringing it up in the first place.
I confess I was not here for
Okay.
the previous discussion, so I'm
Okay.
in the dark as usual.
Well, they've agreed to pay the expenses for the first 2 years and continue to try and operate it. They're not,
All right, that'll come up on the motion
Okay,
too.
I'm sorry.
The first question is do we want to rescind it so we can bring it up and rediscuss it? All right,
Okay.
we are short 3 members compared to when we first discussed it, but
Then I would say would like to hear it, so I would be for rescinding it.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Go to the, it was Article,
35.
May I ask a
35?
question before we go any further,
sure,
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
Since we have a town monitor here, what's the difference between rescinding it and
Considering.
reconsidering it? It seems to me, aside from the fact that it takes a different vote, you know, the effect is the same.
No, it's not. Reconsideration can only be done the day that an article is passed.
No, it can be
When you
reconsidered
adjourn,
afterwards.
reconsideration can only be done up until the point that the meeting is adjourned. At town meeting, my moderator said you can't even go from night to night. All right, that's how the town meeting works. But Robert's rules says it must be done prior to the adjournment. So and the only way that you can deal with it by Robert's rules is to rescind what you've passed previously and then you go to the motion again.
I don't want to get into a long, she's here, she can answer.
He's right.
But you can reconsider afterwards with a different percentage vote. Right?
After you rescinded your original vote. then-
Okay. I didn't realize that. Okay, thank you.
All right, any motion for favorable action on Article 35?
So moved.
second.
Mr. McDonald, you can't move. If you remember the Library Board of Trustees, you have to recuse yourself.
I'm recused.
Sorry.
So moved.
So moved.
Second,
Chair calls for a quorum.
Doesn't happen.
Don't have it.
Hmm.
Because I was a member of the library trustees.
Yeah, we'll spin all votes for anything, yes. You've spoken on it in this committee on behalf of the Library Trustees.
I've spoken on behalf as a liaison to the library trustees. That's what I did.
1, 2,
Well,
All right, I'll step back, I'll accept the motion, it's seconded. All right, we can start the conversation. I'm gonna remind the committee, we're here to deal with the financial issues of the town. We're not here to necessarily vote with our hearts, because if I voted with my heart, I would have voted for it. We're here to vote with our pocketbooks. We're here to vote for the safety of the spending and the safety of the libraries. One of the points that came up in the conversation was the $40,000 that might be needed 3 years from now would be the payment that would be required on the money that's needed to repair the library, which we don't have the money to do. We need some $200,000 over 5 years, that's $40,000. That's the reason why most of the members, personally, I don't appreciate voting with less members than we had the first night, because we talked about it at length.
I agree.
I understand where you're coming from. We don't have the opinion of all of the town meeting, but, you know, a few phone calls, everybody that I've talked to supports my side and says it was a good idea. They love the spending, they love the idea, they love the building, they think it's great, they think it's wonderful to some residents, but by the same token, they're saying the same thing that some of us said, which is,
we don't know.
where are we gonna get the money?
And that is bothersome. That's why I based my first decision on not funding it.
There also, by the way, my understanding is there is a deed restriction that the town cannot do whatever it wants with the building.
it has to be a
It
library.
has to be a library,
Yes.
Calls.
and that's a fact that, pardon?
The deed restriction has been taken off. I can go get my stuff in the car, but the deed restriction was removed. As we should stop here. My understanding, if my memory serves me correctly, part of the issue between the Spinning Inc. and the Friends was the fact of that deed restriction, and they had it removed prior to the transfer
There's
between
some
Spinning.
confusion, because I was told by one of the people who's supporting the spending, who brought the article to us, that the deed restriction was still.
Yeah, I'll go get it if you want. I have it in my
I
car.
trust you, I'll trust you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to be certain, if you want, I'd be
I
able to
stand
go get it.
corrected then. We still face the issue of how do we support it?
Am I banished to the children's table still, or can I speak
You're
on this?
banished to the children's table. Sam?
you've given me a lot of, you've given me very good reason why reluctantly I would vote no.
Be my guest.
Thank you very much. If
But
you're,
stick to the facts. Don't-
well, okay, well, I mean,
All right.
the facts are, in my opinion, we have 2 years where they're going to pay for it, the Friends are gonna pay for it. Now, if you can possibly tell me, and yes, I've seen the 5-year business plan, and I hope that it's not true, but if this town moves in the right direction, something comes up or whatever it is, then it may be possible to fund it. In the meantime, the added hours that library gives us additional funding. Granted, it's not a lot of money, but that funding from the hours at that library will also help the library. It's not a lot of money, but it is still more money than what the library was getting. That's also positive. The fact that it's I wouldn't say brand new, but a relatively new building, and if something happens, like during the other day, I guess they had a problem over at the library where somebody hit a pole or did something and it took all the computers out, they have a backup plan, and it's over in Onset, it's called spinning. I don't want to speak unkindly about that area, but that is an area that could use a library. It's a social economic issue to me. It's not just a financial issue, but you have to be able to see that it's not going to be a financial burden on this town for 2 years, and at some point in time, it needs to be looked at that it's not a burden in the current look. It will be in the long term, but by then, I can't promise you or tell you that our town won't change enough to where we might be able to support it. So you're getting a building that's relatively new. You have additional income coming from the state because you have the additional hours, and to me that there has to be that has some value to us as a town. I try to stick to the.
Any other comments?
What are we gonna do in 2 years if we don't have the money?
Well,
Are we gonna close it down?
you can, or without the deed restriction, you can turn it. It's a meeting place. People can use it for meeting. There's several buildings in town. If I had to make my choice of whether I wanted spinning or those buildings, I'd take spinning in a heartbeat. But we have to be able to. It's an asset, and it's a free asset. It didn't cost us anything, as opposed to some of the other things we have purchased. So
Grandstone cost us anything, they put us in the hole by almost $2 million. That's the problem we're facing.
you just interrupted me. That chairmans aren't supposed to do that.
I understand that.
I know that long term it doesn't bode well at this point looking at the business plan for 5 years, but again, it's a business plan and we're not even in the first year of that business plan. So things can change. It is an asset. It is going to bring us a little more money in. It is going to be paid for by the Friends for 2 years, and it's a relatively new building, so your maintenance cost is going to be low, if anything. So that's my opinion.
Right. Let me go up. If you don't mind, let me go up because I think I stated you wrong. I don't think it was the deed restriction that was lifted. I think it was the reverter clause.
The what?
Reverter
The
clause.
revert clause was reversed.
Yeah, I think it was the
Yes,
reverter clause.
that's gone.
I'll go get it just to be certain.
We already had our public,
Oh, I just want to say one more thing.
okay.
I don't feel comfortable either voting without the full membership here.
I don't either.
Because there was a 3-5 vote, and that's 8 people voting, and now there's 5 of us. And I don't think it's fair to the other people that aren't here to take this vote. And even if I was on the other side of it, I just feel like it's not very fair.
Mr. Gray?
As I say, I wasn't here unfortunately, for the first discussion of this. And I would very much like to vote for it. But I don't see where this town is going to be much better off in 2 years. I could see a long-term dig out, but we're not going to be in a place where it's going to be easy to come up with $40,000 in 2 years. And therefore, reluctantly, I would have to say also no.
Mr. Paulson, do you have anything to add?
The thought that goes through my mind is if we can't find $40,000 in 2 years, we ought to wrap it up right now, really. And I'm not trying to be cute or saying you're
No, I
cynical about it, but I voted for it initially. I understand what your reservations were then, and I understand what they are now. I'll continue to vote for it.
I don't think we should.
Tony, you asked to speak, the committee allows to.
That's fine.
Sure.
I believe the Friends had said that in that third year, should there not have been enough money for the town to cover it, that they believed that they would have that money to cover it in that third year, and continuing on, they would have money to help support it.
Well, there are a lot,
So, I
they
mean-
said there was a lot of what ifs and
Well,
we would like
absolutely.
to,
Right.
but no commitment.
We're
So-
still, I realize that, but we're
So-
still talking what ifs here too. What if we don't have the 40,000 in 3 years? What if this doesn't happen, that doesn't happen? Nobody knows. You
That's
just
my
don't,
point.
so it's a tough question to answer.
I will go back to, you say, can we come up with 40, or can't we come up with 40? We need $200,000 to repair that structure right now. That is the quote that's come back to us. Over a 5-year bond, that's $40,000. It was deemed we don't have the money, but we're gonna have the money in 2 years. I just don't, I'm sorry, but I just don't see it. Otherwise, we should be fixing, no window's gonna fall out over there. The building desperately needs painting, the roof is starting to leak,
Well, I
there's a lot, you know,
I know.
and we don't have the money to do that, but by some magical situation, we might come up with the 40. All right, at the same time, we're also talking about, you know, to go back to the statement's been used before, $40,000 and one teacher and one swimming. So, you know, that's why I'm trapped, but any further discussion?
How do we have to vote now on this? I mean,
Yes,
You have a motion on the table?
you have a motion on the table?
Of course you have to vote.
okay.
Any further discussion?
No, you've cleared it up for me. It was just a personal thing that was ripping at my gut, and I'm,
I think for good reason.
yeah, and I know what I'm gonna do.
We're about to find out.
Yes, you are.
We get into a weird parliamentary situation. We also have still, under Robert's rules, you still also have the right to withdraw your motion if you so desire,
I think you should.
I'm going to withdraw my
which would
motion.
make the vote stand that we previously had.
Exactly. I will withdraw.
Just like it.
You have to withdraw your second.
You withdraw the
I
second?
have to withdraw both your
I
seconds.
I withdraw all of my seconds.
Need a motion to reconsider the vote to rescind?
Motion. Vote.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Pardon?
I don't even know what I was voting on there, to tell you the truth. I don't
Reconsideration.
wanna vote it on it. I just don't wanna vote on it.
All right, 4-0-1.
Unfortunately,
I'll
we
explain to
don't
you
know.
later.
Thank you.
Basically did is we set it up so that we stay with what's printed in the warrant.
Fine, that's what I wanna do.
The school transportation revolver, a question came up on the revolver as to, that article,
It's one of the revolving. Set the,
we don't have an index? No, yes, 25, page 18. To see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money from the transportation revolving fund to purchase or lease new or used vehicles for the transportation department or take any action thereto. And notice in the explanation, the school department is asking for approval to spend up to $60,000 from the transportation revolving fund during fiscal 2012 and fiscal 2013 for new and used vehicles. We met with town council. It was myself, the moderator, the town council, and the superintendent. Town council's opinion is that this amount is voted, it is encumbered. All right, it was made perfectly clear to the superintendent what that meant. Right off the top, it's encumbered. To go back and to use it for anything else in the revolver, they would have to go back to town meeting. All right, otherwise it sits there in perpetuity and such, until such time as it's used. It must go through the normal procurement procedures, which means it must go through the town administrator or his designee. So all the legal issues basically have been solved with this.
Okay.
Then, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so it's subject to 30B procurement laws.
Yes,
So unless it's an emergency and it's over a certain dollar figure, it still has to go back to town meeting, right?
no,
Okay, so we're just basically saying that 60, I believe it says, there's a dollar figure of 60,000?
Yes.
60,000.
So $60,000. if
I'll
we
take that
vote-
back. If it's a new vehicle, it has to go back to town meeting. If it's a used vehicle,
Thank
it
you.
doesn't.
All right.
The charter specifically says all new vehicles must go through town meeting.
Right. So if they're buying a used bus, they only have $60,000 to begin with. And they can buy a bus as long as it goes through the normal
Through the normal
procurement process.
procurement,
But they have to spend it on a bus or a van.
yes.
Okay. Now, did we table that or something?
No, we actually voted against favorable action. All right, but I think rather than try to change the warrant or anything, we can just discuss it at town meeting as to what we did. We were somewhat nebulous on it because we didn't know what the legal opinion was. The amount that was on the original explanation was 100,000, we modified it to 60,000.
Yeah.
Just so it's clear to me, Mr. Chairman, that 60,000 cannot be used for any other purpose.
No. Right, and it's just, like I said, in perpetuity, it will from year to year. All right, so that's it.
Thank you.
Right, and it will not be 60,000 per year, by the way. It
Just
has to
one
be,
time.
if they use it, they have to, it's a one-time.
Mhm.
Right, if they use it and they want to get back to 60,000, it has to go back to town meeting to be replenished.
Okay.
Anyone have anything on any other articles they want to reconsider, discuss, talk about? Trying to wrap up?
I'm still agonizing over the whole Upper Cape article. Because I think we voted in the negative on that as well.
Mhm.
We
Yes,
did.
we did.
And I think of myself as a proponent for education. And I think that they do a really good job of educating. And it bothers me that I voted against it, but, we only have what we have. And for them to, I think the thing that bothered me the most is when he came in here and he said, we're only looking for a modest 3.2% increase. And it bothered me a little bit because we're looking at 21 teachers being put away basically, or gone. We're looking at fixing the roof. We're looking at 12-year-old IT systems and programs that are not really helping our children as much. They need to be updated. And they were looking for a 3.2% modest increase, and they had not lost any teachers. So it bothered me a great deal. And, I'm not willing to reconsider it, but if anybody else is,
Well, I voted in favor of it. I think that they do things the right way, and I wish we had done it all along the right way. They plan their capital items out, and they're very aggressive on taking care of their building and keeping their software. Their software, that AutoCAD program is unbelievable money. I mean, their costs are a lot higher than in the technical school than they are here as well, because of the labs and the materials that they need to have. And I thought, I feel very badly for the situation our schools are in, but don't penalize the people that are doing it the right way.
Mr. Gray.
In a perfect world, or even a fair world, I think that they would get our full support. They're doing a great job, all appearances, and therefore they should get the support. Unfortunately, I can't, for the life of me, see how I can support giving them an increase when they're increasing the number of teachers while their student body is going down slightly over the last few years. They're having some capital programs funded, not a lot, but my memory is 120,000. I don't have it right in front of me, but something of that sort. Meanwhile, for the rest of the town in our school system, you know, we're laying off teachers. We're getting essentially no capital improvements made. And I don't think it's fair to the rest of the school system to have one school that's getting funded like that and the rest of it not. So that's the reason I oppose it. I do it very reluctantly because, as I say, in a fair world, you would want to support somebody who's doing a good job. But that's the way I
Any other articles you want to throw? There's no motion, so is there any other that we're all set on everything? All right, pre-town meeting is tomorrow night, Thursday. I have not posted a meeting, so if I was to show up, somebody's gonna have to leave, I'll go. It's at the VFW tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Madam Moderator, you want to explain? Is it the same format as it's been previously? Or basically it's just a matter of...
Basically the same format, where we'll go through each article just to give people an overview of what the article's about, allow them to ask any questions that they might have it. Try to stay away from any debate. I honestly feel that debate should occur at town meeting, but I think there are some issues. Actually, tomorrow morning I'm doing the Gumbo show in the morning, and in the afternoon, Town Council Mary Ann Silver and myself are going to try to put together a very short presentation on what is an override, what is a debt exclusion, what role does it play at town meeting, at the ballot, because I think there's some confusion. Coming into town meeting, people think that if they vote the article at town meeting, it automatically goes on the ballot, and that's not true. So I think that, you know, to try to work out some of those issues prior to town meeting, and get some of those questions answered, it would be a good opportunity for people to be able to ask some of those questions ahead of time.
Anyone wishes to attend? 7 o'clock tomorrow at the VFW, not in the town auditorium. I put on here an agenda item for me scheduled for April and May. I don't see any business for next week, so I think we'll take next week off. I have scheduled a 6 o'clock meeting on the 23rd for us to get together in case anything does come up, any problems, and we want to discuss anything.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, the hour before the town meeting. All right, I've also scheduled one for May 21st because there will be a special town meeting.
We'll meet between then.
Pardon?
We'll meet between,
We'll meet before that.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Question?
Yes.
On that 6 o'clock meeting on the 23rd is in the cafeteria?
Yes. I'm sorry, in the cafeteria of the high school. All right, and as item C was a special town meeting, and that is scheduled for May 21st at this point, so that everybody's aware, and there's a potential of May 23rd as well, correct?
What is May 21st?
that's a special.
It's a special town meeting. There's been some labor negotiations. There's some items that have to be cleared up. They couldn't get them on this warrant in time.
Oh.
All right, and there's 2 articles or 3 articles. We'll have all the information. The articles actually closed on Monday, so we should be getting them by the end of the week since we took them forward.
You know, forward those on to us by email?
Yes,
Okay.
the only way I can do it. Go back to one other. Everybody's pretty much familiar with the letter that I sent out. It's in the report. You read it. If there are any suggestions before we go to town meeting, and we usually do the report orally as well. I can make any changes, suggestions, or whatever. Just
I thought it was a very good letter.
we can discuss it before the town meeting. Any liaison reports? Liaison reports?
No, well, maybe I should. We have tried a couple times to meet the committee to find a new accountant. And these attempts have ended up that John and I have met twice now with no other members who have showed up, so that's still in abeyance. Meanwhile, we've gotten 10 resumes, and I think that the plan would be to interview. I think the number is 4 of those.
Who's on the committee?
The committee consists of 1 select person, Anna Maria,
Mm-hmm.
myself, John. That's it.
Maria.
Anna
Anna
Maria.
Maria.
Oh.
Anna Maria. Any other liaisons? Paulson or anything? Hello? All set. New business, unanticipated items? Mrs. Ekstrom, you're late.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. First, I want to apologize. Last week, you were going over the warrant articles. Article 51 is the wind turbine article, and I unfortunately had another engagement at another committee that I'm on, so I couldn't be here. But I did want to just let you guys know, I assume you already voted on it. You probably either voted no action or negative or abstained from it. I talked to Mr. Heath last night, and he said that it was really, no one knew anything about it. Just so that you're aware of it, what it is, it's the same article that was on last year, that passed a town meeting, that came back the next night for clarification, passed again. What it is it is just to repeal the wind turbine article that is written right now in our zoning bylaws. What happened last year was that although it passed, when it got up to the Attorney General's office, the planning department did not notify all abutting towns by certified letter that we were repealing it. One of the towns, Carver I believe it was, wrote to the Attorney General and said we weren't notified of the change. So the Attorney General rejected it. If you recall, in that article last year, it was to also create a committee that would study this for us. The town moderator was kind enough to say that that committee should still go forward. And the only reason why I'm putting it back on there is so that we can suspend it so that, or repeal it so that we can write an article that is more conducive and favorable to the community. But just so that the board's aware of that, if you decide to reconsider it, if you decide to keep your vote that way, but that's all the article is about.
It was 8 members in attendance when we voted it the last time. I would say if we were going to do anything, it's too late to change what's been written. I would suggest if we're going to do anything, we wait until that 6 o'clock meeting before the town meeting, and then we can come back and, unless somebody disagrees with that. Be sure all 8 members are available.
Thank you very much.
It's basically the same article.
It's exactly the same. The only difference, if you look at last year's article, the only difference is that last year's article had the part that said to establish a committee that the moderator would pick, I think it was 3 members? I think it was 3 members at large, plus the town planner, building inspector, a few people like that from the town. And they've been working on it for a year. But they're supposed to present the information, but not a bylaw at this time, so that people can take that, digest it, and then if in the town we decide to go forward with a more either restrictive or less prohibitive bylaw, they would be able to do that for the fall town meeting. But just to protect the town, because pretty much even the gentleman who had applied for the wind turbine last year, the year before, he even admitted that our bylaw, because it was done so long ago, I think it was 2006, I think it was put through, there have been so many changes in the industry now that our bylaw really is not state of the art. So,
Okay, last year's motion includes setting up a committee and then saying, is that what you said? There was,
it's the same exact, yeah, it's the same, the first part of it's the same. The
Yeah.
second part had the committee. And the moderator, even though the Attorney General rejected the bylaw,
the committee was
the
established.
committee was established and the moderator took care of all of that,
So
so,
this is to clear up the first paragraph.
absolutely. Okay?
Would it, my suggestion would be, and I'll get all these guys to agree with me, I would strongly suggest you have a handout going into town meeting explaining the article,
Okay.
because we, and try to get something maybe in a local publication or something, so people have some idea beforehand.
Okay,
Otherwise, it's gonna probably run into the same stone wall I ran into here.
okay, no problem at all, I will do
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Alright. Any other business? None?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Next meeting date, try. April 23rd, 6 o'clock,
I don't,
in the auditorium, already posted.
I don't think our chairman.
Motion to adjourn,
No, I'm not doing it again.
so moved. We don't need to-
Second!
Second, Mr. Gray, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? 401, Mr.